Well, I'm joined today by Gareth, the newly installed head groundsman at Craven Cottage. Gareth, thanks for your time out. I mean, we're at the training ground here today at Fulham. You've only started, what, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, yeah.
So, it's fresh in.
Yeah.
How are you finding it so far?
Yeah, really good, actually. Still in the learning curve, still trying to take everything on board, but I seem to be getting to grips with it at the minute.
You're not new to Fulham, though, are you? You've been here, what, 18 months now?
18 months, 2 years, yeah.
Okay.
I was at Southampton before this.
So you worked with Andy Gray there, I take it?
Yeah, under Andy Gray for 4.5 years, roughly.
And how was that, working with Andy?
Really good, actually. Really, again, a really good learning curve because I was new into the football industry at that point. So he was really good at mentoring me and helping me along the way to get where I am today. And
in terms of where you started out, I mean, we guessed from the accent that it's Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
What attracted you to turf care as a job? Is that how you started out, or?
It is actually, yeah. So I used to play golf, and as everyone wants to be, you play a sport, you want to be pro at it, and then you soon realise that you're not good enough. So the next best option for me was to actually be involved in the maintenance side of it. Got a job at my local golf club at 16, 17 years old, and sort of moved on from there.
And was it what you expected in terms of, turf care? I mean, it's a bit different to football, I know, but
yeah.
16 years old, was the job what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, it was a lot more detailed than what I actually thought. I think this is where, amateurs at any sport can learn. It's not until you're actually involved in it you actually realise the amount of effort that goes in to prepare the course or the pitch for that one day. So I think that was the one thing that got me was I loved the science behind it all. Okay. and learning, all the different specs of everything and how there was so much, chemicals and biology and, maintenance actually went into it.
So you love the science side of things.
Yeah. Was
there anything that was a complete surprise and thought, oh, this is a bit harder than I thought, or?
Yeah, getting to know what each nutrient done, I would say, was the main shock at the start, because you would never think that, grass needs, the iron, the calcium, the phosphorus, the potassium, all that sort of stuff. So at the very start, it was, that was a bit mind blowing for me, really, because I never learnt anything like that in school necessarily.
Now, did you have that kind of opinion that everybody seems to have, that you just cut the grass and water it and maybe put some seed down and some fertilizer?
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes. Yeah. And I still get called a glorified gardener today, which which is a bit of a kick in the teeth, but you have to laugh, don't you?
So how long did you stick in golf then?
So I was in golf for about 10 years, roughly.
Okay, not all in Northern Ireland, though?
No. Spent some time in Australia and New Zealand, just done a little bits of golf courses out there. And then, back to Southampton.
So Australia, New Zealand to Northern Ireland, bit of a different climate.
Yeah.
Different culture.
Yeah, massively.
Is the job regarded any differently out there?
I think at that point, whenever I was there, I think there was a lot more respect around the grounds industry in Australia compared to obviously Northern Ireland, where I come from. Their life's obviously made a lot easier with weather. We have 360 days of rain in Northern Ireland, where they have 360 days of sunshine.
Sure.
So that took a bit of getting used to. And you had to sort of completely change some of the things you learnt from working in Northern Ireland to working in Australia. You just can't go out and do certain things that you wanted to do. So again, I think it was good to get both sides of the spectrum in regards to the weather-wise.
A real education.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So you liked it out there?
Loved it.
Why'd you come back then?
A woman.
Okay, all right, okay.
Not through the want of trying. I would have loved to have stayed out there, but unfortunately I couldn't, so I had to come back to England. And I think whenever I sort of become fully qualified at the job, I always said to myself, right, at some point I want to work for a Premier League football club.
Right, okay.
So it was always a dream or a goal, should I say, for me to try and achieve, and coming back to England was a good stepping stone in doing that.
So that stepping stone was Southampton.
Yeah.
So how did the Southampton job come about?
So initially I applied for a job as match day staff
Right.
at St Mary's Stadium, and then I arrived there for the first game, and Andy Gray was like, "Oh, can I talk to you?" Once it arrived, and I was saying, "Oh no, what have I done?" And he just said, "Oh, you're asking about a full-time job. It just so happens someone's handed their notice in this week, and I was wondering if you'd like to come in and give it a go and see whether you liked it or not."
Wow, okay.
So yeah.
And I guess you liked it.
Oh yeah, I did, yeah. Yeah, I did, yeah.
Okay, so you worked with Andy, did you say for about 6 years?
No, just slightly less, for about four and a half years, yeah.
Okay. So what do you think Andy taught you then? Because he's obviously highly regarded and he's now at the FA at St George's Park there.
Yeah. Taught me quite a lot, because obviously going from golf to football, there's a massive gap, I think. All your practices are, even though it's the same industry, it's still so different at the same time. So it was having to manage the sort of the daily usage and making sure everything was prepared for the first team in the correct way, making sure it was actually up to that standard. And then learning how to manage people and people from outside, contractors, and also managing myself first and foremost.
And what was your progression there? Because you started off obviously just joining as one of the team.
Yeah.
Where did you progress to?
So started off as a normal groundsman there, working at the training ground, and then after about 3.5-4 years, a position come up working for the ladies team at a site called AFC Tottenham, which is a non-league team. That's where the ladies were playing their home fixtures at that point in time, and I ended up getting the head groundsman role there, working for them.
And what sort of team did you have there?
It was literally just myself.
Was it? Yeah,
that was myself and a couple of really helpful volunteers who were both in their 70s.
Oh, right.
So they were really good. Like, they loved it. It was actually, you're never too old to learn. And they actually liked me being there because they could learn off me. So that was good.
So in terms of the support you were getting from Southampton, were you getting all the kit you could need, or you really having to, so it was probably one of the best non-league grounds?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Well, all the kit and more. And not only that, the lads would come over and help out from the training ground, if they ever needed anything. And by the time I was leaving there, the 23s were playing some of their fixtures there. We held the International Cup, and we had Wolfsburg and another German team, I think it was. No, Wolfsburg and Valencia. Actually.
Okay.
So that was good to have, showcase, what we can do in England for them. Because obviously, again, you go to Europe, it's slightly different.
Yeah. I mean, a head groundsman at a non-league ground would be totally unheard of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, what brought you to Fulham
then? Career progression. The position came up for the head groundsman. I applied for that and wasn't successful, but they opened up a role for me as deputy head to assist with Anthony, who's now left.
Yeah.
And it's worked out really well. I think I've learned from Declan, who was here, and I've also learned from Anthony, who I've worked under.
That's Anthony Quinn.
Anthony Quinn for 18 months.
I wondered what he was doing after Guns N' Roses. So you worked with him for 18 months.
Yeah.
And then Anthony's moved on.
Yeah.
Was it straightforward? You got the job as the head? Or?
No. So I had to go through an application process, the same as everyone else. 2 interviews, and then a couple of days before Anthony was due to leave, I got informed that I was successful in getting his position. So yeah, I was over the moon to get that.
So going from kind of deputy, almost kind of like one of the lads, to now the guy who's running it and got to manage the team, which is a total of
2 people, including myself.
Okay. Did that transition feel quite natural, or was it something that was difficult? Because it's suddenly having to manage somebody perhaps that you've been working alongside for a while can be a tricky process.
Yeah, can do. Yeah. It was a lot smoother than what I thought it would have been. Okay. The guy who's there with me, James, he's very understanding. That I have to, that I'm stepping up, and I think it was quite good because you have Anthony was sort of not necessarily on the tools as much. So whenever I was out on site, I was maybe managing the maintenance side of stuff, and trying to assist Anthony as much as possible. So even then, there was. I still had that management side of stuff along with James, so it's been a lot smoother than what sometimes it can be for people.
Okay. And you get much support in terms of, or did you need much support from the club in terms of how you become suddenly a manager who's got to now look at, I guess, some Excel spreadsheets? You got a budget meeting this afternoon, which, welcome.
I know.
2 weeks in, budget meeting.
Yeah.
And then all the things like, appraisals and all the kind of admin that comes with the job.
Yeah. The support is there. As you said, I've got a budget meeting this afternoon. So again, this is just part of the sort of steep learning curve that I have to see us out to the end of the season here at Fulham. We're quite lucky we only have 4 games left now, which is a massive help, because then I can then take the time to sort of sit down and do the things that I need to do and teach myself and learn from the likes of Stu, who's based at the training ground, to help me in taking those next steps, I guess, up to being a head man.
And have you done stuff with Excel and budgets before, or is it kind of just
a little bit, not too much, but again, I've done a little bit of Southampton, but their systems, and every system every club uses is massively different, so it's just getting your head around actually using the systems rather than what's in them, more so than anything.
2 of you looking after Craven Cottage. Historic stadium. It's got some quirks about it, and we'll come on to what it's like to manage as a surface in a bit. Doesn't seem an awfully big team for a Premier League football club. Do you benchmark that against anywhere else?
No, we don't benchmark. We're quite lucky. We've got a very good match day staff.
Right.
We've got a couple of lads who are available during the week because they're maybe at uni, or they have holiday or time in lieu to take with other jobs. So there's a couple who are quite regular and coming in and helping out during busy periods. The likes of the game just gone there this weekend. We had 4 people on site every day.
Do you get some support from the staff here as well in terms of the training ground, or is it?
Yeah. So we have a couple of lads who come down and help us on the match day, but then we have one member of staff based at the training ground who does 3 weeks at the training ground and 1 week at the cottage. So if I can call upon him for the busy weeks, then that works out.
Okay, that's
perfect for myself and Stuart.
So it's not quite just 2 of you then?
No.
2 1/4.
Yeah, 2 1/4. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get on to the cottage now, which, historic. It's, I think it genuinely has got a cottage in the stadium, hasn't it?
Yeah,
which I think
it does,
is kind of the director's palace by the sounds of it for match days.
Yeah,
so,
not my bed, unfortunately.
I think what you're saying earlier is one of your biggest issues is access and where you put kit.
Yeah.
How do you get around that then? What are the issues first?
So the issues are we only have one access ramp in and out, and we have no actual sheds themselves. Everything has to be stored underneath the stands, and then we have 9 LU120 grow lights, which are hard to manage. With getting them in and out during game days, we have to store them in a compound or a school which is just up the road, and then bring them back down a main road with people. So that's probably the main challenge on a match day, and match day -1 is actually getting those lights out of the stadium, storing them, and then bringing them back in. Especially with an evening kick-off and a highly residential area. We're driving tractors up and down the road with lights on the back. There's banging. There's engine noises.
Where do you store them?
There is a compound in just at the back where the new stand is being built, which is like their storage area. So they close that down on a Friday afternoon, and we put the lights in there and get them straight back out after a game.
Okay. But you've still got to go out around the residential streets.
Around the road,
Okay. All right. You've got a CIS hybrid pitch, yeah?
Yeah.
Fully stitched?
Fully stitched, yeah.
What's your view on that at the moment? Is it a nice, easy one to look after?
I don't think there's anything such as an easy pitch to look after. It does have its quirks and issues, I guess, a bit like the actual stadium itself. There's certain ways we have to manage it. But the actual pitch itself, it's reasonably good quality. I think, with the demand of Premier League now and cup games and stuff, we're pushed to our limits, but it's just some part of the job that we have to overcome.
Shade's an issue through big part of the year, I guess, but at the moment it's less so.
Yeah.
You also tell me that you don't have to use as much fertiliser perhaps as others, and that is because of the construction of the pitch, is that right?
Yeah, so we probably use, I would say maybe put a number on it, about 75% of what maybe other clubs would use on a sand-based pitch. We're slightly different. There was, I'm going to say, it's peat mixed in along with it, which was put in there to obviously hold on to nutrient and stuff, but it hasn't necessarily worked out the best. We do have to do regular maintenance with Pro-Core aeration, and keep the pitch as clean as possible, or else we just start to get the algae and clog up the pitch.
So there's a lot of aeration.
Yeah.
And you're saying you're doing it how often?
Probably try our best to get it once a month. But again, that's dependent on fixtures, when we can squeeze that in to make sure we're not making the pitch too soft for a game or it's getting too firm.
And you're sharing a lot of kit with the training ground here, I think, aren't you?
Yeah. So the likes of like the Pro-Core or big machinery, we try our best to store it at the training ground and then just bring it down to the cottage whenever we can, or we have
for that access.
Pretty much.
Okay. What's your favourite bit of kit?
The uni rake.
Why?
Oh,
I shouldn't sound surprised, but
it's just such a good tool. I think you can do so much work with it with minimal damage. You can do it at any point of the year. It's just always great to have.
And just going back to the CIS pitch, how long's that been installed now?
That's about 8 years off the top of my head.
Which is pretty much coming towards the end of its shelf life, I guess, is it? I mean,
Yeah.
what do they tell you when they give it to you? Do you know?
10 years,
10
roughly,
years,
isn't
okay.
it?
So within a couple of years, you're going to be looking around.
Yeah.
Without going into detail of what you might or might not look at.
Yeah.
I mean, would you happily go with a CIS pitch again, or do you think there are other options that have moved on?
I think there's always other options. You have to do what's best for your not only for yourself but mainly the club.
Yeah.
It has to be heavily focused on what the club's plans are. So within the next sort of maybe year, those discussions will be happening, and we'll see what's fits best for us at the cottage then.
So 4 games left.
Yep.
When that 4th game is finished, what's going to happen to the pitch? Is there some corporate stuff? Are there any events in the summer? Or?
Yeah. So we've got 3 weeks of corporate, and in the middle of that corporate, there's a potential of a under 23s fixture, I think, in there. So we're going to have maybe 10 days of corporate. We'll have to shut the pitch down for 3 days, potentially have this fixture and thrown in the middle, try and pull it back up to some sort of standard for the 23s, and then just give it back to partnerships and corporate side of stuff. But again, it's all part of the challenge, isn't it? You have to deal with these things and take them as they come and hit them head on.
And when's your renovations going to start?
Start of June.
Start of June.
Yeah, we're starting into those.
And what's your process in renovation? Is it pretty much the same as everyone else, or you got something else? You got a contractor doing it? You doing it yourself? Or?
Yeah, so we've got a contractor coming in to do it. We do things slightly differently. I know a few other clubs in the Premier League have used this machine, so we're going to dry jet it for the 3rd year in a row, and that helps break down and actually inject sand into the clean sand, pure sand into the surface, which helps with our drainage. But again, going back to the makeup of the pitch, there were some issues along the lines, I think just before I started with drainage issues, and that's where we then had to start putting in a proper aeration regime.
So this dry jetting, is it something that's been happening for a few years here? Yeah,
so the last 2 seasons we've done that.
Who comes in and does that for you?
That's Ken Sims.
Okay, and how long does that take?
So the dry jet takes about a day and a half.
Right,
A lot of manual labour because we have to carry 25 kilo bags of sand to and from the machine, which you're putting out about 20 tons. So it's a hard day's work.
Just the 2 of you?
No, there'll definitely be reinforcements that day.
I was going to say, form a chain.
Yeah.
Oh dear, not with a wheelbarrow.
No. We'll have as many as machines as possible and big burly men. I might just have office work that day, I think.
Oh, my back.
Yeah.
Okay. So a day and a half on that, and then it's what goes on after that.
And then straight in with the Caro, because with the dry jet, the surface actually becomes a bit bumpy. So if we were to Caro then do that, then we'd never have the plain surface that we do. So get that done first.
Do you know when your first match is?
No, we don't. Still waiting on that to be confirmed. Obviously with Premier League it starts middle of August, so the end of the 2nd week to the 3rd week of August I would roughly suggest.
Do you normally get some friendlies in before that? Or?
We try our best to get one in. Again, it depends where the pitch is at, depends what the manager wants to do. If he doesn't want one, we don't have one, which is obviously beneficial. It's one less game, isn't it, for us?
One of the other things that you're having to learn now, I guess, is you're now having to deal directly with the management of the football side of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
How have you found that in the 2 weeks? Or have you had much to do with it previous to that?
Well, we had a game on Saturday, so that was my real first...
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that one. We can move on. You had to get that in, didn't you?
Of course. So that was my first real dealing with the management team on Saturday. There's been a few times in the last year or two where, maybe Anthony was off and I've had this, cover the games and stuff, but the main dealing with them was on Saturday, knowing exactly what they want. And I think moving forward, it's something that will become key because, I can prepare the pitch how I see fit.
Yeah.
But I'm not preparing the pitch for me, I'm preparing the pitch for them. So it's having honest conversations with me and me having honest conversations with them, because if I can help and aid them in any way to win games, then that's what we have to do.
So, on Saturday, how much longer was it to stop us playing our silky smoothie passing? And did you not water it?
No comment.
Okay. We'll ask off camera on that one then. Okay, so, that's a new relationship. But that's obviously got to be interesting and a whole new dynamic for you to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing about Fulham is it's quite a family-orientated club. Like, everybody's really close. If we come over here to the training ground, or the training ground guys come over to here, everybody knows everybody, and it's quite nice. So they're very easily approachable. And I think if I was to tell them, you can't go in here, you can't go in there, they'll listen to me as much as I'll listen to them. If they need to do that, then they have to. We just have to grit our teeth and smile. And
you always had the ambition to work for a Premier League football club.
Yeah.
You fulfilled that ambition.
Yeah.
What have you got left on your ambitions in terms of what else you'd like to do?
For me, it'd just be taking that next step and becoming a grounds manager. So, I'm no rush to move anywhere, go and do that immediately. I want to get some experience and continue growing for the next few years.
So by grounds manager, you mean sort of like overseeing the whole operation for the club, so the training ground and the stadium?
Yeah.
So when we've finished here, what's the next thing for you to be doing over the next few days, Gareth?
Well, we're quite lucky. We've got a 3-week break, so the next few days for me is just sort of repairing what's happened on Saturday, and getting a good plan in place coming up for the last 4 fixtures of the season. Obviously, being a new role, there's quite a lot of stuff in the office for me to do now, so that's a good chance for me to get my head around that, and then just get our heads down and make sure the pitch is best as what it is. And
when do you actually get a break?
I don't know. Do we ever get a break in this industry? There's always something, isn't there?
Yeah, just think, do you bugger off when the corporates are on, or do you still have to stick around?
No, we'll still stick around. We'll be in maybe in the mornings and try and get some of our time back. Try and use some holidays. One of the lads at the Cottage, he's going away for 2.5 weeks to America. So if only I was in the plane with him, I would love to be. I'll have to take my holidays later in the year.
Well. Let's hope you get one.
I know, you're telling me.
And I wish you all the best in what is still a very new role for you, Gareth, and look forward to seeing how you progress and catching up with you in the not too distant future.
Lovely, thank you very much.